All right, welcome everybody. Jared Napolitano here, marketing advocate for the PC, Star Wars CCG Players Committee. We are kicking off year 2 of the Retro League. This is event 1 and game 5, so we're doing game 5 of a 6-game event. This is where we kind of really start to see who the top performers are, who's playing well, who's got good decks for the format. That's where we want to feature such players. And yeah, so we have a couple games actually. One we'll do live, which is about to kick off in a couple minutes. Started a little early just to kind of set the stage for this. And then I got a replay for one of the other 3 top tables. The top 3 tables are each 2 4-0 players playing against each other. Of course, this is the second one, and the third one is going to be Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern, and that one we may or may not be able to stream live. Hopefully we can cover it live, but worst case scenario, we'll do a replay like I'll do tonight after the live version. I got it from DRTORCH, who played against mwfendt earlier today, so we'll do that one on a replay. It'll be a little different, probably do it a little faster, and we'll see one of the players' perspectives. Whereas when we do these live streams, we're kind of seeing all the action unfold, seeing the players kind of think and debate of what they want to do. So yeah, Steve Sanders is again going to be the tournament director for the league. There's 5 events. This is event 2. Again, we try to just hone in on the games 5 and game 6 of each 6-game event, so that players don't feel like other players are scouting and anticipating what they might run into if they meet them again. This is the last time, for example, that John, who's playing his light side, will play this light side deck in this format for the rest of this event. So he doesn't really have to worry about someone, saying, oh, he played 5 revolutions or something like that, and pack like 3 evaders to counter it. So just want to thank everyone who plays in the league, who's volunteered and helped with the league, and anyone who's viewed and spectated these streams. These get really good viewership on Twitch and our YouTube channel. And that's always great. Bring more visibility and hopefully bring some players back to playing again. Maybe if you're just finding this video on YouTube and realize that you could play Star Wars CCG online, well, this is called GEMP, G-E-M-P. You can access it at play.starwarsccg.org, and you can play everything for free. You have access to any card. There's tons of different formats. You can replicate sealed formats. There's a couple cube options. There's open format, which is every card that's ever been released. Well, with one asterisk, except the cards that were blank during the Legacy era, but all open format, all Decipher cards. It's about a card pool of about almost 3,500 cards. That's open, and there's Jawa format, which lops off some stuff. Then we have these retro formats that are kind of time warped. So right now, Premiere-Hoth, we're going to winter of 1996 into 1997, but we have a little bit of a spin where players aren't as restricted. If you don't have 5 Darth Vaders, well, that's okay, because on Jump you can play with any cards you want. So they're about to fire. Hopefully we get a little engagement here, or a lot of engagement to the chat. Feel free to ask questions. I am playing in the league this year. Or last year I played in it, but I only did the last 3 events. That was a Premiere to Death Star 2, and Premiere to Jabba's Palace Sealed, and then Premiere to Reflections 2. This year I'm doing all 5. I'm starting from Premiere-Hoth. Last year I was a little intimidated. They did Premiere-Hoth and Premiere to New Hope were the first 2 last year, which I didn't do. And this year I'm doing Premiere-Hoth. There's an article on the homepage if you go to starwarsccg.org. It's one of the more recent articles about the league. If you're interested in joining, you can still sign up for event 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're just finding this in August, you probably could still sign up for the last event of the year. You don't need to do all 5. If you want to maximize your standing in the cumulative league standings, you do want to play all 5. So yeah, so we have our streaming good to go. Let me make myself smaller now that we're starting. Pretty typical starting Obi-Wan's hut and the Death Star. Very common starting locations. An interesting thing about this matchup, so we have Andrew, who's COTVG, which stands for, I'm guessing, Court of the Vile Gangster, which is, of course, an objective that comes out a little later in the Decipher timeline. Andrew opens up with a Twix. So Andrew, COTVG, He finished in the top 8 in the 2021 Retro Online event, which was Premiere to Death Star 2, which was a pretty big field. He was in there with Bastion, Winklehouse, and Hayes Hunter, and Justin Desai, and Joe Olson. He lost to Hayes in, I think, the quarterfinals, but he almost eked it out. And then John, I think both of these players only played the last 3 events, like I did, like I was just saying last year. I don't think they were doing. Oh, we got a Revolution right off the bat on Wampa Cave. As both players have now put out a Twix, and we have the activation flip now 7-4 in favor of John. But both of them did really well. John he went 4-2, 4-2, and then 5-1. And Andrew, I'm not sure exactly what he did, but he finished with even more points than John did. He finished with 50 points for the year. They finished 1-2 in the final event, which premiered Reflections 2. So for first and second, so both apparently pretty strong players. I know Andrew a couple years ago, but I wasn't as familiar with John, but he definitely seems to know what he's doing. and this is interesting because they did well in Premiere Reflections 2, which is one of the latter formats for Decipher, only printed cards or the retro formats, but then also this Premiere-Hoth is, one of the 3 oldest, we'll say, and they're both off to really strong starts, going 4-0. So Kashyyyk comes out, gets Andrew some more force back. And yeah, we'll see what happens. So I was kind of spooked. One of the older school players made a comment on the Slack, on the PC Slack, Jim Lee, about playing like 20 scanning crews, which, when you think about it, if Darkside does that, that's not the worst strategy. You just keep taking characters out of their hands, which prevents them from, getting like Obi-Wan down, prevents them from activating like a Sense Alter capability. So, and obviously that's probably why people do Obi-Wan's Hut. I mean, it's just a good Twix. There's not many Twixes, but ideally you get an Obi in your opening hand, maybe 2 to get through a scanning crew, or 2. But what I did in my deck, which maybe is bad, because I'm not a very experienced old school player. Like, I played it back in the day, but wasn't very good, at least not until like Endor came out, which is actually the next event 2. Premiere to Endor is event 2 of the year. I started with Throne Room in my deck. I played all 3 of my light side games already. I think I went 2-1. Yeah, I'm 3-2 so far. Started Throne Room and played like 4 Obi-Wan's Huts with the hope of, open hand one of the Obis, just get the hut there, go first, and then kind of be able to sense the scanning crews as they come through. So yeah, maybe a crazy strategy, but I can see scanning crews getting very annoying in this format. Nowadays there's a shield for it because it's just a annoying card. But we see Luke come out to the Wampa Cave, which kind of what I was touching on, enables him now to play Senses and Alters with a character with ability on the table. It looks like, wow, I think Andrew just activated and said go. Yeah, activated 6 and did nothing else. So he saved 8. He's got 12 in hand. Of course, Grimtosh and Monarch are very popular in this format, so probably a lot of respect of not going over 12 cards, or you are susceptible to a used Monarch, which can set you back, make you lose some cards. Here we see Obi-Wan for only 2 force to his hut and his lightsaber, so now threatening a drain of 1, and start chipping away at damage. If your player only plays open and you're just checking into this, it's pretty fun looking at this older format where you have lots of force drains at non-battlegrounds. The concept of a battleground didn't even exist at this point. Chimera Big Coward as a card or a shield did not exist. And Battle Order, Battle Plan did not exist. So force drains were free, kind of like a right to all in this format. As Zev Seneska joins Luke at the Wampa Cave. But this is not going to be a force drain. Maybe he's just trying to prevent like Ice Planes from getting deployed and Darkside from moving over and threatening a drain of 2 there. Spies are pretty valuable in this format, honestly, like Jerome Webb or Momo Nadon, or like Garindans in a lot of decks for Dark. Because getting to these non-battlegrounds can be very strong. Of course, Darkside plays a lot of Presence of the Force. They could put that on Obi's Hut and then instantly threaten a drain of 4, because this is Force Drain +1 for Darkside, if you control Force Drain +1. So yeah, it's a different game. It has its charm. I like seeing I love seeing new and returning players in the league, and I also really like seeing, you know, I'll call them like veteran or open players that, you know, play the current game and they also play the old school game. So, you know, whatever format people like, they should play, and that's what's great about Jump. People can do whatever and find games pretty much any format with anyone across the globe at all hours of the day. I would say pretty reliably. Some exceptions, but for the most part, it's pretty good. All right, so Andrew solidifies Kashyyyk here with 2 Victory Class Star Destroyers and a Deploy 1 Admiral Mahdi, who is, of course, Deploy -2 if at least 2 Imperial Starships on table. So this is a pretty formidable setup here, and he's threatening a drain of 2, whereas John has a drain of 1 at Obi-Wan's hut. Yeah. I thought about doing the new user interface, which is pretty cool, but it definitely it's a little more work on the computer. And I know some people prefer the old, even some old school players like this format, and I know a lot of the players who started playing on Jump just you know, in the Jump era, which really started back in 2013, as Darth Vader is lost off the top to the Force drain, you know, just get hooked and used to the older format. So change is difficult sometimes, but the new UI, which can be accessed from the lobby, it's one of the top links. Again, this is play.starwarsccg.org is what these players are playing on, in case you're not familiar. Yeah, so you can play on the new user interface. It's not very mobile friendly. I don't think it's at all mobile friendly at this point. But it does have, I think aesthetically it's much better, and it does have a lot of features that aren't in the normal one. All right, Mantelian Savrip comes out. And something just made me think of something else, and then I forgot it already. Well, we'll see the strategy here. I would think, you know, every deck in this format should probably have light side should probably have like 6-7 senses. All right, we got Red Leader and Red 1. Just going to YOLO against the 2 Star Destroyers. Of course, he's got Savrip to back it up. Darkside doesn't really have a strong... It doesn't have a force for, like, Tentacle to play against, like, Senses. So this battle might go through without any, like, Sense Alder shenanigans. If John draws high enough, he could probably just, like, throw an Obi away for Mantelian Savrip. And... you know, live to see another day. All right, doesn't draw too high though, so we'll see what Andrew draws here. He draws a 3, so Scanning Crew. So it would be like an Obi from hand and a Force, but then Andrew would have to lose either Mahdi or one of the Star Destroyers. So we'll see what goes to Lost Pile here. Yep, we got an Obi from hand. And he's got to peel 1 more to battle damage. I see Andy in the chat. Thank you, Andy, for your lots of stuff, for your videos with deck techs on the retro format. Check out the Board Matt channel on YouTube. If you're a new returning player, Andy teamed up with Matt and made a lot of really good videos to help new and returning players. Also, I know he loves this Premiere-Hoth format, and he's organizing the annual online retro event, which will be Premiere to Special Edition, happening in, I think it's end of April. It's going to start. Andy drafted up the details. I've had it on my list to help firm up some of the other ones, like other details like prize support. And once that stuff's all firmed up, probably the next week or two, we'll start promoting that and getting signups ready, and that should be a real fun time. That's a format that has some untapped potential, being in the, and isn't really played super often, but I think that'll help in this context. We'll see how many people fire up their post-errata operatives. All right, so Andrew only has 6 Force to work with here since his Wampa Cave got revoed, and we have Darth Vader to the Star Destroyer, and of course he doesn't have any Force left to battle, so nowadays it's just crazy. I kind of have to like switch my brain when I'm playing in this format, because there's so many ways to like activate a Force unconventionally or initiate battle for free, or there's ways to like modify Destiny a lot. You know, even some stuff like that, like printed format, like changing the odds, for example, that subtracts 1 from a battle destiny. So if your light side and your dark side opponent draws a 1, that could turn into a 0, and all of a sudden you go from losing something to losing nothing pretty quickly. And there's a bunch of cards like that in in Open that modify. So sometimes it's nice where your destinies go through a lot more unscathed, unmodified in the older school formats, which is good in a lot of ways. It depends on what side you're on, I guess. Whether you're avoiding getting your main character hit and forfeit 0, or whether you're pushing that through. All right, so Vader's lightsaber off the top to the Drain at the hut. Tantive 4 is going to join Red Leader, and we'll see if we get a battle here. Probably could like safely still battle, lose by a little, so he's able to utilize Mantelian, because of course you can only use Savarip if you have lost the battle. Wedge comes down for another 3. Good old OG Wedge, super strong card. Destiny 4, ridiculous. Still to this day, really ridiculous deploy forfeit ratio. Good pilot. Smuggler. Does a bunch. Alright, so we have a battle here. I'd almost want to draw low here. He draws a 1. Okay, so he's going to lose the battle then. But of course, there's no immunity from Andrew, so he's going to have to lose something. And in all likelihood, John has a character or a vehicle or a starship that he can toss from hand. This works for vehicles too, right? Yes, characters, starships, or vehicles. It's not like barriers that don't work on vehicles. So let's see what John tosses here. He is going to lose Pops. So he's going to still have to toss 1 more. And another cool thing about this format, you know, nowadays you start with so many cards on the table. This format, you start with like 1 card on the table. There's no starting interrupts, which of course didn't come to like Jabba's Palace. So your reserve deck is like pretty thick. You can afford to lose some battles by 5, by 7, and the game is far from over. So you know, John has tossed a few cards here to battle damage and a few cards through Savarip. But he still only has 4 cards on his lost pile. Both players do, and they both have, you know, plenty of cards face down still. So, and the turns go much quicker. My matchup yesterday or 2 days ago against Tony from Sweden, I think the game was 18 turns. Nowadays, you know, it's pretty obvious who's going to win a game 6-7 turns in. The turns are longer, but point being, there's lots of charm to all different formats of Star Wars CCG. So whatever you like, go for it, including if you like them all. Play as much as you want. We're almost at 400,000 games on Gemp, which is awesome. As Grand-Moff Tarkin comes down, who's just a beast in these old school formats. Being able to cancel that destiny is so strong. And he's going to punch back. So they're going to just keep dueling over Kashyyyk. And Andrew's probably hoping that he draws low here, because make John actually lose something there. But again, you know, it's going to be John's turn, so he can reinforce if he has some characters. Probably, I think Zev at the Wampa Cave might have been a little necessary, but that's really easy to say 50-50, or in retrospect. There's only so many like good pilots. Oh, duh, I'm still thinking it's Mahdi up here. Yeah, Vader's in space, so... Alright, so yeah, he's not going to lose anything. Sorry, yeah, Mahdi and... Mahdi's long gone. So one of the cool things about Gemp is any card that got any type of errata. So Vader, of course, had one because the actual printed card says add 3 to any starship that he pilots. So this is actually an errata slip, but it's been like high res. It looks like great, crisp, clear. All the text is easy to read, and this is the up to the minute game text. So if the card has never been errata, it doesn't have it. So I think, like, for example, like this one, you see it's a little fuzzier. If you notice, like all the text is a little more grainy. But any card that's had an errata, like Luke probably, I'm surprised he doesn't have it, because adds 3 to the power of anything he pilots. So yeah, he does have the errata text, but he's not, I guess, one of the remastered ones, which is actually a little surprising. I would think he would be. But like Tantive definitely is. Like, see how clear the image is. Really great work by Christian Knutson and everyone involved in that initiative. All right, so now John is going to go to alter his own revolution, so he can then presumably start draining at the Wampa Cave. Now that he took away the force early on, he draws Commander Vanden Willard, who is a spy. There's a virtual version of him nowadays, who's pretty strong card. But here he's just he's deploy 3, but he's a spy leader, ability 2, and there goes Revolution. And now John can start chipping away with drains of 2 at the system. Oh, is that what it is? Thank you, Adam. So for the high res, so yeah, so Vader already got hit, but Luke didn't get hit yet because he's L. Gick and Scanning Crew both lost off the top to the drain. Like Gick, looks like it hasn't been reached yet. Looks like we haven't gotten to G yet. You can tell pretty quickly, and it's really cool because on all the different, not just Gemp, but also like all the different resources like Scomplink and VKit, like all the when the updated versions come through, they look great. All right, and then Sense goes off the top. Looks like we have, what is it, 11? Both players have 38 cards face down. Andrew's got 3 more in hand. Board control appears to favor John, but I think a neat thing, like my game the other day, like flip-flop back and forth. There was a couple times I thought I was in the lead, and I thought I was behind, and then came down to a really close game. So there's lots of punch-counter-punch that goes on here. And as we got Porkins, Jerome, and Wedge. So what is that? Well, 2 different Red Squadron pilots. Mentioned him before, how spies very valuable in these older formats. And he's just going to pass, which is probably a good play because yeah, he's in control. He's got 3 damage queued up on the ground. Replenish his hand is probably, well, and obviously he's just going to get his Battle Destiny canceled. So I guess he's just more accurately just kind of stall in space. Maybe make Andrew maybe dedicate some more resources, or just try to hang around up there. You know, he's stuck up here with the parsec difference between Kashyyyk and Death Star is currently 6. Tantive nor Red Leader. He definitely doesn't want to move Death Star because then Red Leader could run away here. And this thing couldn't, I guess he could catch it because then he can move Death Star again, and this is Hyperspeed 4. But, you know, I'm sure Andrew's kind of weighing the pluses and minuses of, it's probably an easy decision for him right now to leave it there, especially since he's got Vader and Tarkin who are just so powerful together. Reminder to everyone that online play week is going on. If you go to starwarsccg.org, there's an article on the homepage that talks about it. Basically, you play a game and then you submit your replay via email to marketing@starwarsccg.org, and you get some cool stuff, including physical slips in the mail of holographic AI alternate images of Lord Sidious and Master Windu, who are open cards, but I think we're doing Gemp virtual AI packs as well. Maybe we'll do something else. So definitely, it probably appeals a little bit more towards open players, but you know, hopefully everyone participates. Maybe we'll give some other type of stuff, like Gemp foils, Gemp packs, which people like to differing degrees. All right, DS613 comes down. That adds 3 more to the power. That's a lot of forfeit he's gonna have to cut through with these pilots, but kind of probably a good long play for John, just to try to extend the game, or not extend the game, I guess. Yeah, like I said, make him dedicate resources up there. Draws a 0. Doesn't matter anyway. Canceled. Let's see. Oops. Right. 1 force and battle damage for Darkside. Like I said, we're hoping to stream the 3rd and final of the 4-0 versus 4-0s scheduled for Saturdays between Lyndon, UK player. So it's going to be his nighttime. And I can't believe I'm blanking on who he's playing. It's someone, I'll think of it in just a moment. Joe Horby. Yeah, I'm not as familiar with Joe, but that should be an interesting. Lyndon actually had a really good article. It's on the homepage as well about his return to the game, which is really interesting, and how he's gotten involved in collecting and volunteering with the PC and playing open format, playing retro format, playing sealed format, as he was kind of the main cog in getting all of the Jedi sealed format off the ground with the help of Adam Fletcher, which has just been a great sealed format. So he's going to be playing in that game on Saturday. All right, so we got Drain. So Andrew loses Ice Planes off the top, Presence of the Force, lateral damage. And here, so John's got some more space resources. Hang on one second. I'll be right back. I got a puppy thing. One moment. All right, sorry everyone, I had to step away for a second. I'm back. Looks like I didn't miss much. U3PO came, good old U3PO. Kessel out. Another battleground, or I shouldn't say battleground, because it's kind of irrelevant. More activation for Andrew. Provides a place for either player to kind of run back and forth to. And so that's another Victory class Star Destroyer that came down, right? So got a pretty big powwow here at Kashyyyk with 20 power each side. Dark has 5 cards there. Light has 5 cards there. And we'll see how that goes. That just becomes kind of a staring contest. Both players still with the same amount of cards face down, although that's going to change in just a second. Dark loses sense off the top. So yeah, so also with the online play week, there's a couple leagues. I mean, they're just, they're typical Gemp leagues, but there's a 30-minute blitz for open. I know some players like to play fast. And then Premiere to Endor to get people ready for event 2 of the year. So that might be something that people are interested in. And then there's an All the Jedi. I feel like I get a sense that we can't really have too many All the Jedi formats, because a lot of players like to open their packs, and then sometimes they get good cards for their sealed decks. Sometimes they get bad ones. They get a little discouraged. Sometimes you kind of get in the middle. But, we hope that people don't open up separate accounts just to do sealed. And I've said this before, like I've had some matchups where my opponent has had a way worse pull, obviously. Very easy to tell, and yet I lose. Even though it's someone who's probably like pretty equal, and I shouldn't say equal. You can overcome bad pulls to an extent. I mean, there's definitely a point where it becomes impossible. But all right, so Gold Leader's out. At Kessel, it will draw Battle Destiny because it draws if unable to otherwise, despite Kessel's text of ability 6 or more required to draw Battle Destiny here. So Red Leader or Gold Leader. Of course, the good old Rebel Leader pack from, I think that was released in like February or March of 1996. Right off the bat. Pretty cool cards, that combo cards really, in a way, of putting a character and a ship together. I can kind of, can definitely draw Battle Destiny on its own and do some damage. I think a lot of decks back in the day might have run like 2 or each of those. Wouldn't be that uncommon, especially once like Landing Claw came out. So we have Andrew's turn 9 here. He just really hasn't been doing any damage beyond Savrip characters and some characters losing directly from Kashyyyk and a couple battle damage. I think 2 battle damage maybe. But just no presence on the ground here, so we'll see if he can flip the script. He's got you know, 9 cards in hand, that's not nothing. See if he go to the ground and start forcing damage, but now he's got this drain of 2 that he's got to worry about from John at Kessel. He's got to worry about. If you're watching this and you don't, hopefully you follow the PC on Twitch. SWCCG PC is the Twitch handle. Give us a follow. Get notified when we go live. Also, you can subscribe. If you have Amazon Prime and you haven't used your 1 free subscription, you could do that and subscribe to the PC for free and support. PC gets some kickback there, and we invest it in different types of streaming improvements and enhancements and equipment. Or if you just want to do like a normal subscription, we welcome that as well. We get some incentives like poker chips and PC poker chips and foil slips to kind of thank people for doing that. So each milestone you reach, like 1, 3, 6, 12, and then it goes every 6 months from there, 18, 24, 30, etc. Different stuff. So the PC can't. We do foil slips on open cards, in case you're not familiar, but a lot of times we try to, pretty much always we do. We're definitely gearing more towards full slips instead of half slips. And C slips are kind of a pain to do foils for because they're a little difficult to cut up. But, you know, basically a full rectangular slip goes completely over the card. Nice and shiny. And usually uses some different art. All right, so we have a Monarch on John's 13 card hand. See if we get a little sense altar war here. Yep, all right, there's 1 sense. Andrew has to have an altar, right? 13 cards left. Yep, all right, there's an altar. No force for John to do like a tentacle or a, what are you trying to push on us? So that might play in here. And another sense. Yes, that's where that tentacle would have come in handy for Andrew. And we got a sense from Dark Side. One and we got an altar from Light Side. I've had a couple. Oh, we're still going. All right, so sense from Dark. Of course, you don't have to draw on that one. Some of these you have to draw. Some sense versus sense, you have to draw for it. It's brutal. Okay, Light Side's got the sense too. Wow, so everyone's just cleaning out the hand of a. And this will be an interesting rules question. So now he just went from 13 cards down to 9, and another altar. Wow, this is quite a chain. And it looks like it's going to resolve. Oh wow. So I don't even. Let's see who wins. Looks like Dark is going to win this stack. It's kind of confusing, and I understand why it is what it is, but I don't know if the slicers, oh my gosh, look at all these senses. And if they could put like LS in parentheses or DS in parentheses after the sense card, I mean, maybe that would be, maybe you couldn't do that because then it would impact like grabbers because they're the same card for purposes of a grabber. But yeah, sometimes I get caught of like, wait a minute, did I win the war? Did I lose the sense altar war? And am I drawing for this, or am I, yeah, because it'll prompt you if you have another sensor altar in your hand. Do you want to, as a potential action, because that's how Gemp works, where there's these enforced actions, and anything you're able to do at any time is like lit up by default. So you're like, wait a minute, I don't want to sense my own sense here. This might be problematic. Is there a way to fix this? But all right, so it looked like Dark won that big war, which meant that ultimately Monarch went through and took 1 card. Yeah, 1 card out of John's hand. Okay, so it takes it down to 8. So it's not like, hey, he's at 13, you play Monarch, hey, I'm going to move 5 cards. Then in the process of that resolving, 4 cards get moved. Right? Yeah, you only drop it down to 8. Okay, that's interesting. I wouldn't have. That's the type of question that would very possibly come up at like an in-person tournament. All right, so let me zoom back down here. So Dark now with a healthier hand, 5 more cards in hand, but Light Side definitely has board control here with 5 damage queued up versus Dark 0. Dark doesn't have any of these like efficient combo ships the way Light does here, so maybe that'll give me an opportunity to talk about something that just happened in a recent tournament. But maybe Andrew has like a Talon Roll combo he can piece together. What actually happened was at one of the recent events, one player had Talon Roll on his list, but he had no TIE LNs in his deck list, and that was if you just look at the Talon Roll card itself, there is no it doesn't reflect the errata that happened, that you can't use any tie for a talent roll. It has to be a tie LN. But of course, there's errata slips that have been made and generated for even Decipher cards, little half slips you can slip over, and then like when the combo card came out in Reflections 2, that specified it. But yeah, little stuff like that. Some of these older cards sometimes a lot of times the errata are just like clarification. Like for example, add 3 to any starship versus 3 to anything. Those are stuff that people are like with weapons, like you target defense value instead of ability. But then there's some stuff that is actually like substantive. All right, so we have a scanning crew from Dark. Lightside doesn't have any force for a grabber. Either he has no senses or he just doesn't really mind, or doesn't think it'd be worth it to use his sense on a scanning crew. Let's see if he grabs any rebels here. Thank you for subscribing, and Rabbit. And Rabbit is one of the players in the league. We got a lot of people. I mean, again, so the Retro League is global, basically. We got people from Sweden. We got people, I think, from Poland. Or I know from Poland. Obviously, lots in U.S., some in Canada. Got Australian players, so it's really neat. And I think last year we averaged around, 42 players for each event. This year we're starting off for first event 54. No, I think it's 55 because there's a bye. There's 25 tables. All right, so he grabs Han Solo. So it's a really cool response. I mean, the regional leagues that do open primarily, but sometimes they do retro or alternate formats. Andrew, why is he breaking U3PO's cover? Huh. Oh. Oh, so he has forfeit fodder, basically. But yeah, so again, and I think the Premiere-Hoth might be a bridge too far for some people because it's just so far back and such a different game versus like Premiere to Death Star 2, which is the most popular retro format, or yeah, Premiere Reflections 2 gets a lot of games as well. That was what we've done a couple events for that. And we have the scanning crew again. Presumably Andrew knew that there was another rebel in there because he already did that this turn, right? So yeah, hopefully we get 55, 60-ish players for each of these events. And that's where it really funnels down, and Chewbacca goes to use pile. One of the additions in the rules this year, so like I think it is technically possible that we end up with 2 6-0 players. Kind of depends on sides. Like it's possible the way, if all the light side players win, they can't all play each other. Or actually, no, I think we're definitely going to have 2 6-0s, right? Well, I shouldn't say definitely. It's definitely possible, put it that way, because one of the winners of the 4-0s is going to be 5-0 and can't possibly play the other one. So we could very well have 2 6-0s that didn't already play each other. In which case we installed this new rule this year, which Andy and Steve Sanders helped implement, of like a final confrontation. So if you have 2 6-0 players, especially if they didn't play each other at all in the first, well, they couldn't have played each other. That's right. Either way, because someone would have to lose. Yeah. So duh. There would be a final confrontation. I think maybe whoever has the higher strength of schedule might be able to pick the side. That's something that would be good to stream. Pretty exciting, for all the marbles. And to be honest, I'm not sure if it was a 1-game playoff or a 2-game match. But either way, I can confirm that'll be fun. So it looks like we're actually headed towards that. If Andy's in the chat, or Steve probably isn't because he is in a very different time zone. But yeah, that would be a pretty cool thing to cover. But it is also possible that, as we have this battle here, as I'm babbling, Savarip, he's going to toss Torn Far from hand to cover the damage. I think it was 2 battle damage. The virtual Torn Far is a really good card. But another Destiny 4 like Wedge. But yeah, it is possible that 2 of the 5-0s play each other, and then the other 5-0 loses their game 6. So there could be an outright 6-0 winner. Very possible. Sometimes when the event's smaller, you have these players that play each other a bunch of times in the event. Like, for example, you have like an 8-player event and like 4 games or even 6 games. Your players are going to play each other already. So doing a final confrontation is pretty... it's not really appropriate, put it that way. All right, so Andy says he thinks it's a 1-game playoff. And yeah, probably the player who has a slightly higher strength of schedule will get to pick the side they want to play in that 1-game playoff. Because yeah, we don't, some of these games can be very long. I mean, there is a timer, so it definitely can reach an end, but I think we have like a week or two break, and then we head into event 2, which is Premiere to Endor. We got the Drain at Obi-Wan's Hut. That's one of my favorite formats. That's when I feel like I really became really active in the game. I started going to tournaments more. Good old ATST pilots and stuff like that. Routes to operations. I think at that point it was pretty good. So that would have been, I think, summer of '99. We're going to head... Wow, yeah, we're jumping from like winter of 96, 97 to summer of '99 with Endor. Because, yeah, there was a bunch of like auxiliary and like, not auxiliary, premium sets that came out in between Endor and Death Star 2. Because Death Star 2 was like a year after Endor, basically. All right, so Officer Evax goes to the Drain at the Hut, Drain at 2 at Kessel, Blizzard 1 off the top, scanning crew off the top. R3PO comes down, so he's now going to cause Andrew to lose 2 force per turn because he is present with an opponent's spy who is a droid. So these guys might just be staring at each other for a little bit. I don't know if either player really has a ton of incentive to... Alright, so Andrew's going to go for the altar on the Savrip. Figure at this point might as well. It's going to go through, because of course he's got Vader out there as his highest ability character of 6, so as long as he didn't draw a 6 or a 7, there are some 7s. I think maybe that's a trivia question. Is Mournful Roar and I Thought They Smelled Bad on the Outside, are those the first 2 Destiny 7 cards that Decipher released? Were there any in A New Hope? Let's see if anyone in the chat knows. I think that, and Mournful Roar actually appeared in an open game pretty recently, a relatively competitive one, so that's a card that's still used. So yeah, I think that Hoth was the first set that had Destiny 7, yeah. Andy confirms, thank you. Alright, so we are now going into the beginning of Andrew's turn 11. He's down 1 in life force, down 2 in cards in hand, so that's 3 total. Still trailing in board state because John has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage queued up between R3PO and the 2 force drains. Andrew, since John altered his own revolution, he's activating a little bit more. That's a tricky thing about revolution. And the timing of when you do it, because sometimes you're hurting yourself more than you're actually helping. I mean, obviously it's nice sometimes to have a juicy drain at like the throne room or Obi-Wan's hut, but you don't want to do it too early and just kind of force choke yourself. And then sometimes it does make sense, as we saw, to alter your own revolution. Evader, of course, is a card that played a couple copies of. Revolution's just because it can just be such a strong card. All right, we have Lieutenant Cabell, who will subtract 1 from total battle destiny because he's with a leader. We get a battle up in space. Let's see what happens here. So Savrip's off the table. There's not a single effect on the table, which is amazing. Not even an effect on a site, right? Or a system. That's pretty amazing. We're well, there's an effect that could be on the table. All right, so Dark draws a Destiny at 5. They're going to cancel Lights, Destiny, and this is where kind of that long play of, and he draws that Echo Command Center again, of Light, just kind of stalling in space. Like, even, it doesn't look great, but he's still going to be able to force Andrew, Darkside player, to, you know, keep chipping away at him, as opposed to being able to like clear them all and then go block that drain at Kessel. Like, he's got his hands full. Unless he probably can ship dock and move somebody. All right, we got a battle at the Wampum Cave with Admiral Ozzel, General Veers, Lieutenant Cabell, and U-3PO against R3PO. So, yeah, you wonder here. So Andrew definitely wants to lose U-3PO here because he is a liability. He's 2 force a turn, and yeah, and that's a good play by John. That's a really good play by John, because he's now just going to lose Luke and Zev and leave R3PO there, who's just going to cause Andrew to lose 2 force a turn and can't be battled. Yeah, so that's a pro play by John. You know, some of us, you know, when we're coming back to the game or just starting with the game, you think like, oh, I always want to draw Battle Destiny. There's some times where you want to decline drawing Battle Destiny, and you can help. And like, I just did last night, actually. I declined to draw Battle Destiny in battle, and then I counter beat my opponent. Sometimes it can But you know, sometimes you just do it like intuitively without even thinking. Like, yes, I want to draw Battle Destiny and Gemp will prompt you. You don't have to draw. You can decline to draw. If someone adds 1 Battle Destiny, you have to draw 2. You can't be able to draw 3, you know, and only draw 1 if you want. Of course, then there's the distinction. Sometimes some cards say may add, and sometimes cards say adds 1 Battle Destiny. So it's like not an optional decision. All right, so this is looking very good now for John. And he's probably got a couple nouns in his hand where he can like reinforce if he wants to, or he's just going to play a Grimtosh used. That's an interesting play. That could probably go either way, right? Whether used or lost is better there. But Andrew's going to play Sense. Going to go through as he draws the Tyrant. And Andrew effectively cycles a card there, and John loses a card. So maybe better in a sense there that he didn't play it lost and burn 4 force, which can be precious. See if John, something like a lightsaber proficiency would probably be pretty good here. Death Star War Room, another U3PO, the OG U3PO. That gives me a chance to shout out. So again, so Board Matt has his channel, but he actually just did one where Crazy Carl came on, and Matt, we were talking about Jyn Erso, who's basically like a little bit of an equivalent of a U3PO. Not quite as good, because U3PO being a droid has some pretty good perks, because if the cover's broken, it's not like he can then be battled and beat down the way that a character with ability can. But Matt was just like, U3PO, just the most obnoxious card. He is kind of a pain. I should say kind of a pain. He is a pain and has been a pain now for 20. What are we at here? 27 years? No, am I doing my math right? 96. I can't think right now. Yeah, 27 years. Coming up on that. Yeah, maybe 27 years in April, I think. Maybe A New Hope was, I think it was April of 1996. Wow, this game's been around a while. All right, another Severip comes out. Tyrant lost off the top, Sense off the top, but there's a real funny meme that, I'm trying to think who made it, but like the Taken meme of like Liam Neeson talking on the phone of, you know, the U3PO, I will find you. I will hunt you down. Yeah. He has caused many nightmares, and he's still played. And there's like this, obviously a lot of controversy in the game about undercover spies and how they can be really, really annoying and really a negative play experience, but they also could balance things. All right, so Andrew lost that Presence of the Force. Severip just came out, and then John just drew a couple cards and said pass. Yeah. Program Trap. Yeah, in this format, yeah, Program Trap, a New Hope card. Nowadays, there's a couple bullets for Program Trap, including a shield. But yeah, back then you would think Program Trap on U3PO could probably be pretty powerful. I wonder why it wasn't played more often. Is it maybe it's not immune to sense, or immune to alter rather? And just with so much sense alter, maybe that's one reason. Let me pull up my scomp so I'm not taken away from the game. But yeah, I have a feeling it's probably not immune to alter. Yeah, it's not immune to alter. But yeah, that can really blow up a lot of characters. When either player draws a destiny matching the number of characters at the same site, droid explodes. All right, so now we got a Lost Monarch from Andrew. See if he grabs anything here. We see the reveal. There's no sense on it. Undercover R2D2, 2 undercovers. And that's it. We got an Obi, a Falcon, a Mess. It's a pretty healthy hand. Another Revolution. John might be holding that Revolution for a late game. Just throw it on the hut. That might be... so yeah, he had the R2D2. So if and when Andrew was able to establish on the ground, you know, John could have just thrown undercover and R2 at him. And he had a Leia Organa, who's a spy as well. Good old Red 6, Destiny 6. And a Neighbor, and he's holding too. So that, in my game yesterday, I had Neighbor and R3PO to chase after a U3PO that had, I think, Ellis Hellrodded away. All right, so we get an altar on the Severip again. This looks like it's going to go through. Presumably now Andrew's going to try to kick some butt in space, but yeah, with You know, Leia can be forfeit fodder in space. He's got Red 6, Falcon, but he doesn't have any pilot. And he's got Hobby as a pilot. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be really hard to kick. Not that he, you know, nowadays we think a lot about battle order and battle plan, but, you know, at this point, John's just going to force that R3PO damage through. At least now Andrew can cover up the Kessel Drain. He's got enough resources at the top, as we just saw, and as Adam mentioned before, A through D. So yeah, DS612. See how nice and crisp and clean, high res this card looks. It looks great. All right, we get a battle at Kashyyyk. So he's up 9 power. Each player gets 1 battle destiny. Dark draws a 1. Of course, they'll be able to cancel if you're just tuning in. We got Darth Vader, Grand Moff Tarkin, DS613, DS612, and who's the other one? Someone else just joined the party too. Is it oh, it's all 3 DS61s. Yeah, and DS614. Yeah, it's another one. I think maybe because of errata. Yeah, it's D, errata. It's another one that's high res. All right, so now John's got to lose 11. He doesn't have Savirit backing him up, so I'm guessing this is going to be, yeah, Porkins and the Corvette, maybe? Could be either Corvette, either Tantive or the Corellian Corvette. yeah, good point, Tiberius or Chris, about, yeah, Alter triggering the program trap. Yeah, that card... A couple years ago, that was played. I think in Black Sun it was played. That's when the shield was updated to cancel it. That was like 2018 or 19. All right, so let's see what Andrew does. Is he going to move one of these Star Destroyers to block the Kessel Drain? I kind of think he has to. Yep. Probably wishes he could just, you know, like those Snickers commercials, like, got to get away. Like, that U3PO, he's just got to get away from R3PO. You know, it wouldn't be a bad play to have a restraining bolt in some of these dark decks. Destiny 6 is usually good to have. One thing I haven't seen recently, although I know maybe we'll see it in the other game that we stream, like Traffic Control and Reactor Terminals. Actually, in my 5 games so far, I don't think I've seen it either. I haven't played it in my decks, but it's to cycle cards, especially high Destiny cards that you don't need or aren't super neat in a certain format. Like if you're not seeing an R3PO, you could cycle that at Restraining Bolt and track it around perhaps. All right, Andrew tosses Devastator from hand, Barrier from reserve deck. He's going to have to eat 1 more drain here. Tossing Devastator from hand is interesting. I wonder, maybe he has another one? I mean, he has enough force to, like, it's not like he doesn't have enough force to actually deploy it. But yeah, maybe it's just, given he knows the nouns that John has in his hand and can kind of keep stalling in space as he just keeps trying to push through these this 3 damage on the ground. Yeah, we'll see what his end game here is, but John's got 3 more cards in hand and 8 more cards and face down, so that's 11. So yeah, it continues to stay in Andrew's favor. We'll see. Good old General Veers. His text about power +1 on the same side of Ozzel adds 1 to the power of each Imperial at the same Hoth site. So he's power 4. Oh no, he adds to himself. Nice. Nice. And Ozzel becomes a 4, and Cabell is a 3. That's cool. And U3PO fighting for the dark side. But nothing to fight against. All right, so Hobby and Red 6. So coming up, we have this is technically the second table, but there really is no. They're equal. Tables 1, 2, and 3 are all 4-0 players, and regardless of their strength of schedule through the first 4 games, they're still randomly paired against each other. It's not like the players of the 2 top strength of schedule play each other. At least that's my understanding of the way the system works, the tournament software works. All right, so there's the Revolution on the hut. That's now a drain 4. And that, but now, of course, Darkseid can deploy there, but, you know, with Vader and Tarkin up in space, there's not really a lot that Obi-Wan has to be worried about. And of course, at this stage, only 3 sets out. There's not really a lot of characters that even just draw Battle Destiny on their own. Like, I guess Andrew, like, best case scenario, he's got like an Omnibox he could play and then activate down and deploy like a Prophetess, break Obi-Wan's immunity, but probably will take Overflow that way. Like, we saw it get lost at some point. But yeah, otherwise, really, Andrew just kind of has to hope, I guess, he finds an altar, but pretty positive. Well, I shouldn't say pretty positive. I would think maybe John has a sense in his hand to cancel the altar and protect his revolution. All right, drain it to Akashic. That might honestly be Darkseid's first Force drain of this game. Wow. But he has definitely caused more battle damage, and Mentalian Savrip has done a lot of work this game too. So John loses Chewbacca and Han. Convenient. 2 of them together off the top. 2 1s there. Lightside has all of its space now consolidated at Kessel. Probably really could use like an Ellis Hellrot. Although he doesn't have any cards in his reserve deck to draw. The other thing that happens in this format a bunch, this happened to me, this is a good play by my opponent, was he basically went to alter a revolution that I think would have, it was something that made sense for me, 2 cents, but he had hell to pay on the cent, so I had to pay 3, and that left me with only 1 force in my force pile, and I had quite a mercenary in my hand, and then he had a big Ellis Hellrot that he played that I couldn't then play the quite a mercenary on. So there's some of that, like, fake out, or you try to like draw out a sensor and altar on a card. I did this in one of my games in this event too, where I basically, I think I drew, I think I wanted to make sure my guy didn't get trampled, so I had some type of screen and had him cancel that, and then I used like this whole tentacle thing to make it unique, so I was able to actually get the thing I wanted to get through, get it through it, like an altar on a, maybe it was an altar on like a Presence of the Force or something like that. And so, you have to kind of anticipate your opponent always having like a sensor altar or 2 or 3 in their hands. And then, yeah, anticipating the grabbers too. Those grabbers were pretty big for the game, just to try to stem the, stem like Scanning Crew and stem all the sense altar action. Alright, so Andrew, I guess, thinking here, both players pretty even on time. This is turn 13. He's not really going to be able to do much at Kessel. And I think just the math doesn't work out, that he, especially not with that revolution being very problematic right now for Darkseid. It was an interesting time too back then, because you had a lot of people that were like 14, 15, 16 years old playing the game, some that weren't even working yet, and yet you get the Darth Vaders and the Obi-Wan Kenobis, like you were at such a competitive advantage with just a limited card pool at that point of, you know, I guess at that point there was technically, what, 648 cards, but so many of them were just not good. And just a lot of the good cards were rares or rare ones, and the way that the rare 1, rare 2 structure was set up that made the good. It really was interesting, just card scarcity and some of just the broken mechanics. It's really a crazy story that this game has still survived, still so beloved, and unfortunately, like some of the NPE stuff, which some people might find charming and is good in regulation, or moderation, I should say. But no, there's answers and there's formats that if you hate certain things, you can get away from it. But yeah, I would think like the game in 1997, like very few people had 5 Darth Vaders. So it's a cool thing about Jump, that you're not restricted by your by the cards that you own. All right, we got the Altar and the Revolution. Let's see if it goes through. It does. Wow, no sense from Lightside. So that's huge. And that buys Andrew some time here, where he's not going to eat a drain of 4. Instead, it's just going to be a drain of 1. Effectively cycles a card from hand, too. And then John's going to activate a few more. But yeah, we'll hop in once this is done. Like I said, I'll do a replay. I have it queued up here. It's this other tab here, so we'll just play it. It'll go pretty quick. We'll find out who the other 4-0 or other 5-0 player will be, and then there'll be a third 5-0 player, and it'll be random which two play each other and which one is going to get paired down to a 4-1 player. Kifex toss from hand. But of course, if both of these 5-0 players played the same side, they can't play each other. So, and it's possible that all three, like for example, all three winners are dark side, so none of them can play each other in game 6. So then there's 3 pair downs. So in theory, then you could have no 6-0 players, or you could have 2 6-0 players. We get a scanning crew from dark side. So still a lot that can happen. Gets an Obi-Wan Kenobi with the scanning crew. Drain of 1 here. Our 3PO is really annoying for Andrew this game. Alright, we got a Monarch from hand. Kind of cool thing, some people might not be aware that the backgrounds in GEMP you can change. This was a couple months ago, maybe a little more. But if you go to the settings tab, you can do a couple different things, like Hyperroot, you can do space, or the Dark Hive is the traditional one. And then there's other ones that are like just solid, basically, dark gray solid. So let's switch to Hyperroot. R2-D2's coming down. He's gonna, I guess, be forfeit fodder. He is present. He's not going to add anything because he's on a capital. If add a scomp link when opponent draws destiny, so you can do a couple different things. You may activate 1 force, or you may drop top card. Wonder to what extent, John wants. Does he want to just battle at Kessel and try to wear down the ships here? He'll have to lose. Yeah, maybe he just loses R2 as fodder. I know he just goes to his move phase. Okay. So he can't move all 5, nor does he probably want to. So yeah, he just draws 2 more cards. And he now concludes turn 13 at 23 hand in life versus Andrew, who's at 15 hand in life. Alright, Andrew activates, looks like all but 1. Gets the drain 2 through at Kashyyyk. And just again, a reminder, if you're just finding out about this, you can still sign up for event 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 2023 Retro League. You can, maybe the quickest way is go to starwarsccg.org. There's a news article about the whole league, or you can go to forum.starwarsccg.org, and there's a Retro Gemp League forum. I'll just do Control F for Retro Gemp, or Retro even. You can see there's a whole forum for it, which has all the information you would need to sign up, register. You register through the PC Store, and you start building your Premiere to Endor decks, which I need to do. I think we'll probably, like I said, it'd probably be like a week or 2 in between, just let people kind of catch up. And then we'll do another 6-game Swiss style event. And it'll be fun. We'll see some ATSTs, I'm sure, and maybe some of those Endor mains that Lightside had. We'll probably see some Hunt Down from Special Edition. Old school Hunt Down with Endor. I don't know if it was, it was probably pretty good, right? There was Dark Lord of the Sith, OG Darth Vader. That format will include like EPPs, for example. Alright, we got a battle here. Now that dark side. Yeah, so the Star Destroyer was only deploy -2, 1 from the system. Oh no, -2 from Tarkin. I was gonna say Ozzel subtracts 2, but Ozzel's probably long gone. Or he's over. He's on the ground. Duh. Alright, so we got a 4, which becomes a 5 because of Darth Vader. Total Battle Destiny is a 5. He's gonna cancel this Destiny. And we're gonna have a tie here, but Light's gonna have to lose something. And actually lose either like it's probably like Red Leader, I'm guessing. It's either Red Leader or 2 things. Could lose like R2 and Gold Leader if you wanted to, but none of these things are forfeit 5. Except for Red Leader and the Corvette. He could lose the Corvette. What am I saying? Yeah, there goes the Corvette. Duh. But yeah, Hobby's forfeit 4. Gold Leader's forfeit 4. R2's forfeit 4. Yeah, a little tighter here. So 14 to 21. Yeah. 7 different. He's really got to find a way to do something. Like a restraining bolt or Luxor droids, but I mean, at this point, he probably would have made a priority to dig for it if he had it, hadn't lost it yet, or knows where it is, that type of thing. But it doesn't look like he's going to be able to do anything about this 3 damage each turn. Even if he kicks him out of space, at best case scenario, then he's just matching 3 to 3, but he's down in the count. But maybe he's got some tricks. We shall see. This event is strength of schedule, so you know whether you win your game by 1 or 1 by 30, it has the same impact on the standings. At the end of the 6 games, you know, your tiebreakers. If 2 people have, or it's gonna be more than 2. There's gonna be lots of people that have 4 wins, but whoever's opponents finish the strongest, that's how it'll break. You know, deciding who finishes in 8th place versus 15th place, that type of thing. All right, we got another revolution is back. I mean, John's deck must have like 5 revolutions. I wonder if revolution's at R1. But yeah, I feel like I've seen at least like 4. But that's now 4 damage. And it looks like John's just going to run away in space, get away from Vader and Tarkin. And the 2 Star Destroyers. You know what's a fun card, which I actually used recently, is Collision, Premiere card. Where I think you use a force if there's 2 or 3, or 2 or more ships at a system. It's a light side card. You draw less than the number of ships, so if there's 3, you need to draw 2 or 1. And then you get to just pick 1, or dark side I think picks 1 to go lost. So in this case, you know, you target a Kessel, I'm sure that Andrew would lose the 1 without anybody on it. But there's some cases, some metas, that it can be a pretty potent card that you just kill the whole ship and all the pilots. You don't have to shoot it with a gun. You don't have to draw a high battle destiny. It just goes lost. Alright, so Andrew activates everything he has. Gets a drain of 1 through. John tosses his Kessel. Another weird card. Like, it's a light side card that's a force drain of 3. I don't know if there's any other card in the game that does that. Right? I think that's like the most. I mean, it's a 1/2, so you're giving your opponent icons. Okay, alright, we got Dan's and Blizzard 2 coming down to block the drain of 4 at Obi-Wan's hut. And I guess he's going to hope that he can draw 5, or hope that John draws a 3 or less, because this thing is immune less than 4. Again, another remastered card. You can tell how clear everything is. Dan's probably is too. Yep. So this will be an interesting turn. We'll see if we get a battle here or just a staring contest at the hut. Yeah, good point, Andy. Thank you. Yeah, another light side. Yeah, light side Coruscant from Special Edition is another 1/2 location that is force drain +1 for light side. It has that wonky text about if light side controls all Imperials and what Imperial starships are deployed +2, but then the same things are deploy -2 at the system, so they kind of wash, I guess, if they're deploying to that system. But yeah. All right, so scanning crew off the top. I still think it's weird how, oh, excuse me, the Coruscant systems from Special Edition are like green, like a bluish green color, and then you see the Coruscant at like the in the prequels, it's like all city and like black with like lights and like super city all over the place. I feel like they look like different planets, but I think I did some investigation, and I don't think maybe it was as bad as it seems initially by the pictures. Alright, so we'll see what happens here. We're in John's control phase still. Neighboring leads Obi to the war rooms. Huh, interesting. Draws a 0, so it's free. Dantooine. Doesn't have to worry about, like, Utaguta solo. That was fun, too. So when I neighbor in my R3PO in my game the other day, my opponent played Utaguta, and then he was like, why isn't he captured? It's like, he's not a rebel. Utaguta is not nearly as good as Quid Mercenary. So R3PO just stayed at the location. He couldn't be captured. So he didn't go anywhere. Just neighboring was canceled. Alright, so John gets a drain of 1 through here. Dan's and Blizzard 2 are now stuck at Obi-Wan's hut, unable to... Well, there's an altar. Let's see if this goes through. Ooh, this could make things a little interesting. It looks like Andrew only has 2 turns left, though, but... Yeah, he'll be able to cut this down, but I think it's going to be too much. Because, yeah, it's just a drain of 3. And even if he gets the other drain at the system, that's 4. And he's got to eat 2 to R3PO and 1 to Obi, so that's 2 more turns. Yeah, it's interesting because there's really like no incentive to play Battlegrounds. Again, that wasn't even a concept at this point, but you know, as the sets evolved, and especially nowadays, like there's such an emphasis on being at locations that both players can deploy to, both players can force train at. But in this format, like, yeah, your Twixes are good; they can become liabilities, but like there's just so much battling and force training, neighboring to and from, and undercover spies at the non-battlegrounds that it's an interesting arrangement here. Like we don't have a single battle, we don't have a site that both players can deploy to, really, on the table. I feel like light spies are pretty better. I mean, Dark only has Garindon. Is there any other dark side spies? I can't even think of any. Alright, so Leia Organa comes down as basically forfeit fodder, it seems. On Tanev. John's going to battle here. Try to take out at least a couple of the pilots. We got KFC, Cal Found Syndros. And Andrew draws a 3. That'll trigger R2-D2. Activates a force. And he loses Leia, who was just deployed. Dark's going to have to lose. There's a DS612, so he'll cover. Yeah, again, I touched on it at the beginning, but both really strong players in these retro formats. They finished 1-2 in Event 5 of last year's league. with Andrew winning and John finishing in second. And both players only played in the final 3 events of last year. So I know Andrew plays a lot with like Dark Deal 44, the Long Island guys. But I don't know if Dark Deal plays these older formats. I think he might stick just to Premiere-Hoth Star 2 onward. So I don't know if he just wasn't aware of the league last year and that's why he didn't play in the first 2 events, but that seems like it might be more likely, or maybe he's just branching out versus playing in like these older formats like me. Like I only played in the last 3 last year, and this year I was brave enough to try the Premiere-Hoth. But yeah, strong players is a pretty good game we had here. Drain of 3 at Obi-Wan's hut. Just gonna chop into it. Of course, I don't think John's gonna make the mistake of opening himself up to like unlimited resources, which even though he still's got 14 cards. Even unlimited resources probably still wouldn't do a ton here. Wouldn't flip the script completely. But yeah, Andrew doesn't have any cards in hand. No real ways to get cards in hand in the middle of a turn. So not really much of a risk here for John. That should do it. So we have a good game from Andrew. Yeah, well played, both players. Good game. So John will move to 5-0. And yeah, thanks to both the players for coordinating with us and letting me know when to stream. I'm gonna hop out, and then we'll do the other game here. So I got this from Paul Todd Feldman, who was the winner of the league last year. Let me refresh on Firefox. So this one I think will go when we do the replays. They tend to go pretty quick. So so DRTORCH is Paul. He is dark side playing against Matt, who's light side. We see his possible. So this is a replay, so we're gonna see his hand the whole time. And interesting here, we got 2 ice planes and 2 Moss Isleys. Looks like to convert. Right off the bat, he's got a scanning crew, an evader, no characters. Good old U3PO. Out comes Wampa Cave. Oh yeah, thank you, chat, for telling me the other spies. Yeah, Labria, Tonica Sisters, yeah, 5D. Oh yeah, wow, that's a bunch. Okay, so yeah. Of course, light side has like Jerome, Mamal, Van and Willard. Alright, so he draws another evader. And scanning crewed out a Obi-Wan. So I don't know who wins this. Or maybe I do, actually. Because I got a little synopsis. Usually I like to not know, so I could respond a little more organically. But we're seeing this again from Paul's perspective. We have a Cantina gets dropped. That's the light side Cantina, right? That Matt deployed. Obi's hut, a war room. Both players activating 7 here. And Paul's just going to draw here, so he gets still no characters. Looks like we got a character finally. Tarkin. And Alter up to 13, 14. He's got a Monarch. Here's a Grimtosh. That's going to set stuff back. He can't do anything about it, so now he's going to lose a bunch of cards. But, I mean, sometimes I guess in this format, you just got to do it. You can't be afraid, I guess. He didn't really have anything to work with, so he had to take the risk of let me just draw a bunch and hope my opponent doesn't have the 1-2. Although I've even seen some of these Premiere to New Hope and Premiere to Hoth decks can play as many as like 4 Grimtosh. It's pretty wild. Let me move this because sometimes the things are in a little different spot with the replays. All right, so you have me in the corner. We got the logo. All right. Matt just deploys a Revo on Wampa Cave and draws. All right. So again, this is a lot of early. Draw, drop a location, draw. Lots of setup. All right, so we got another Tatooine location, and Paul looks like he's going to deploy Junland as well. So he's got a lot of Tatooine locations that would be juicy drains for the dark side right now. Draws a Monarch, another Monarch. Yeah, I think we've now seen 3 Monarchs in Paul's deck, right? 2 Vader's lightsabers, Darth Vader. A Grimtosh lost here would be brutal. He'd lose 2 senses, 2 Monarchs, 2 Vader sabers. Luke and Han to the Cantina. Biggs as well. And this will be interesting. Let's see if DRTORCH comes down here with just Vader and starts chopping up some fools. Adding 1 to Battle Destiny. And Matt drew, so he can't use Han's text, which In this format, when you have a lot of bad Destinies in your deck, the ability to use one force to cancel and redraw can be pretty handy. So Vader's just going to ignore him at the Cantina. Okay. Rather set up that drain of 3 at the Moisture Farm where he adds 1 to each weapon Destiny. And he's just going to draw his final card, which is Dr. E, I believe that is. It's covered up a little bit by the, yeah, Dr. E. Alright, so drain of 2 at the Cantina. So I would have been tempted to go fight there, but I'm also not, nearly as in tune with this format. So that could go poorly. At the very least, yeah. I mean, if Lightside draws a 5 there, Vader just goes to Lost Pile, and Lightside is in pretty good shape to just keep draining for 2. But odds are that, Vader would take out at least 2 of those guys. And then still be able to hold his own. Wow. Matt draws a ton. Paul has 2 Monarchs in his hand, probably licking his chops when this happened. So he drains first. Why don't you usually want to... I mean, this doesn't matter to extent. Usually don't you want to, take the cards out of the hand? Let's see. Oh, man, he's like rope-a-dope with the Monarch. He still hasn't played it. Alright, he draws a second Sniper, draws a Scanning Crew. Okay, interesting. Alright, so maybe that's a strategy. Go for the Scanning Crew. Figure out if you're going to play used or lost, maybe, with the Monarch, is what the strategy is there. Alright, the Sense is going to miss, it looks like. Right? Yeah, it fails versus Luke. Gets another one. And Paul is going to let him draw again. And he draws a 0. Huh. Interesting here. Why didn't he use either Sense or an Altar to cancel that Sense? So now Scanning Crew is just canceled. Now he plays the Monarch. And we got another... Oh, maybe he's trying to bait it so he can... Okay. Alright. Okay, so he wants to get the Monarch. But why didn't he just do that in the first place? I guess he wanted to just coax out. Yeah, so that makes sense, I guess. Who am I to doubt Paul Todd Feldman in this format? So yeah, it's just really a game of let me draw out your Senses and Altars on the thing that I value less and try to get the thing I value more through. Alright, now he gets another Scanning Crew. Plays a Scanning Crew. Matt is probably out of Senses, and there's a Jerome, an Obi, a Corvette, an Anakin Saber, which is going to go down onto Luke. Obi-Wan goes to the used pile. Alright, so that was a fun turn. Alright, Lightside gets a drain of 2. Yeah, lots of bait. That's the way to go. Alright. Dark tosses an Altar from reserve deck. Vader's Lightsaber from hand. Anakin's Lightsaber comes out. Jerome Webb is going to the War Room. He is joined by Wedge and KFC. And now Lightside's threatening 5 damage to Darkside's 3. And replenishes the hand. It's going. So far through, that one game and part of this game, we have yet to see any tentacles or grabbers hit the table. That first game, I think we ended, right? With, basically no effects on the table. Maybe one Revolution survived at the end. I don't even think so. Pretty wild that there's, no deploy on table effects. That's pretty crazy. Alright, so Moisture Farm off the top from Light, Corvette, and R2-D2. Corvette from hand, R2-D2. Down comes, there he is, the man, the myth. I guess he's not really a man, he's a droid. U3PO to block that drain at 2. No weapon there, so he doesn't have to worry about. Sorry about the mess. Paul is going to replenish his hand, draws the Mos Eisley at I Have You Now, a Tarkin. And looks like they're both scheduling drains of 3 right here. Dark is going to lose the Mos Eisley from hand, Vader from hand, and Ice Planes from reserve deck. R2-D2 goes to the War Room. I guess now he's kind of got oh, interesting. All right, we got an Arcana, but Paul has 3 Senses in his hand. He could Sniper the Arcana, get the drain through, Ellis over, deploy Grand Moff Tarkin, deploy Avazan. Right? I know he wouldn't have Force Duel. He's only activating 7, so that would be too much for one turn. Alright, so we're going to have the Sniper come out. And we got a Sense come out. And now he's got 3 Senses to pick from. He's going to play one of them. Let's see what Matt has. He's got an Altar. We have a Sense. That's just wild. And it looks like Darkside's going to win this Sense Alter War here. And the Sniper's going to fire Ice Storm and going to hit Arcona. I guess he has U3PO. Why didn't he take his drone? Yeah. R3PO, not K3PO. Although they did have the mix-up, right, with the typos. To, I think that's Blackbeard. Yeah, Blackbeard, Ben Kenobi. Alright, so lightsaber goes through. Looks like we're going to hit the Arcona. Oh, wait. Did I just... What the heck happened here? Wait a minute. What did I miss? Hold on. Yeah, so Ice Storm... Oh, so Ice Storm was the Sense Destiny. That triggered R2-D2. Then he played Sniper. Drew a 4. Okay, R2-D2 got triggered. Then he drew a 5. R2-D2 got triggered. Easily hit because he adds 1 to each weapon destiny. Total of 11 versus the 1 defense value from the Arcona, so the Arcona is dead. But would it have been better for him to just battle and sense the react away and then try to beat down the Arcona? Or again, you're risking like another Sense Ultra War. We have it could be worse, but you're risking a Sense Ultra War, and then yeah, I guess you got to kind of go the conservative route and just try to sniper him and get the drain through. So it could be worse. It's going to get sensed. We got another R2-D2 trigger. This is wild. There's a lot going on in this game. All right, so it could be worse goes lost. Now Matt is going to owe. And now Matt, I don't think he played in the league at all last year. I think he's a Twitch subscriber. I think that's how I know of him. But I think other than this year's Retro, I haven't seen him around before, which is awesome. Maybe he has been around, I just haven't noticed, but hopefully not. But yeah, he's off to a good start here. The deck seems very well built. And yeah, the defending league champion here, it's, you're not going to get an easy game for sure. So you get a scanning crew. So we got Chewbacca. How do we get into this mess? Paul is still holding another Monarch. He plays the how do we get into this mess. He's going to be able to draw the extra card, right? With so he kind of cycles his hand. Alright, so recirculate, and we're going to kick off turn 7 for Matt. Going to get that drain of 3 through at the Cantina. Loses another Vader, so Paul's tossed a couple Vaders here. Scanning crew, disarmed. That would have been fun if he, like, Ellis'd. Played Ellis Halrat, first move of the control phase, play the disarmed. I don't think there's anything that cancels disarmed in this format, right? The only way to prevent disarmed is you disarm them, but you can't really do that because, you know, Darkseid has the first action of their control phase. Yeah, I don't know if someone in the chat can correct me, but I'm pretty sure disarm it's even immune to alter. Even when there are not many effects or interrupts that are immune to alter or sense from Premiere, I don't think they realized how busted, how strong of a card that was. All right, so Matt replenishes his hand up to 12. He's got 18 down. Paul has got 32 down, so Paul's in a pretty commanding position here, right? So 40 versus 30. It's up, but not like ridiculous. All right, so Matt tosses the Ruins, R2-D2, and Han all from hand. Avazin comes down. Obi's got this drain of 2 over here. So again, this is going to be a drain of 5. Pretty patient play by Paul. I'd be like really trying to... Whoa, timeout. I thought Evader was immune to sense. No? Wow, it's not. Interesting. Okay, that is my mistake. Opponent loses 1 force for each. We get a tentacle on the sense. All right, so sense is now unique. So that will stem the sense alter wars. And we're going to get an alter, and he can't sense it back. So that means that the Revos are going to get canceled. All right, so that gets Paul back some force. And Matt loses a Luke from hand for that 1 force from Evader. And then Paul's just going to draw up all the way. So yeah, so he's got Dr. E down. He activates a little bit more. He could do like a circle, and he could Ellis and circle and then drain. Yeah, this might look pretty good for... I think I'm starting to see maybe where Paul punches back in this game. All right, so he loses the second Tarkin. Blizzard 2, Dr. E from the top. Here's the drain at the hut. I think Paul I think he plays like 3 or 4 Monarchs in every one of these old school decks. Nothing stops Disarmed, yeah. Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking. Thanks, Blackbeard Ben, that Evader is immune to sense as a result of Crush the Rebellion, which doesn't come out for many more sets. Alright, and Paul loses sense and Darth Vader off the top. Alright, I have a feeling we're going to get a fun turn here. So, let's see. Now, Matt has 4 saves, so he could play quite a mercenary. So maybe Paul does not do the Ellis thing. And I guess just given his lead in life force, he can kind of afford to still be patient. Yeah, he just passes the turn through. He is going to move Vader over to the Junland. Presumably Dr. E is going to join him. Yep. And draw. Looks like he's got another Evader. Oh, now he's playing Ellis during his draw phase? Huh. Okay, well, I'm surprised he didn't do that earlier and just play like a circle or a sniper. Why would he do it there and not earlier? We'll see. He had it, right? Okay, now he can just play circle. Right, and he just wins. Because there's nothing that really stops it except for a sense. He does have an altar to back it up, so he's going to cancel it with his altar. Sense is unique from the tentacle. Okay. Alright, so Obi's going to go bye-bye and out of play. Alright, so that's well executed by Paul. Use 1 force or initiate duel, compare their power, add 2, which they both do. That's where the Tatooine utility belt, I think, is supposed to come in to save Obi-Wan. And now Matt's going to play how do we get in this mess. Cycle some cards. Knew that he didn't have to worry about his sense because it's unique and there was already 1 played that turn. Let's see what he's trying to cook up here. So Matt is at 21, Paul is at like a lot, like 33 or so. We get a scanning crew, he's going to play it. He can't sense it because again it's unique. And he's going to grab one of the Obis, but the Obis are useless now, right? Because Obi is definitely, it's out of play, right? Or is it lost? Yeah, out of play. Yeah, that's what I thought. All that Obi stuff is just like, and then we got a Grimtosh, which is going to grab or kill 2 Monarchs. Alright, so it's a 1 for 2. Drain a 3 here. Darkside's threatening to drain a 4 at the hut. And he's going to lose Reactor Terminal from reserve deck, a scanning crew. Yeah, I'm curious if he has like 6 scanning crews in here. Like, how many does he have? And we got a neighboring. Here we go. Alright, to the hut. So yeah, Matt is not going to allow that drain to go through. So we get that. This is his control phase. He could play disarmed here. Let's see. Sorry about the mess. Ooh, if he gets the mess through on Vader, there's no Gick in Paul's hand. This format's always a little spotty with Destinies, though. And he draws a 4. He hits. Uh-oh. Oh, wow. So that's good for Matt. This would be pretty bad, right? There's no Gick there. Saber heavy now. He could try to Ellis away. He's going to send Vader to his use pile, playing that lost. But, ooh, Dr. E is in for a not fun time. Yes, alright, so a desperation play to try to Ellis and hope he draws a 1. Or a 0, rather. And he does! Oh, wow. Wow. That's insane. I guess he had to. It was a risk he had to take, or else he just loses the game, right? Because, whew, that's crazy. Wow. So if you're mad, you must be like, you got to be kidding me. Because, yeah, I mean, so he's, what, 10? He's going to hit him for sure. And then he's going to draw, that's at least 9 overflow. He's got Han to try to make sure he draws a good Destiny. So let's say he draws like a 3. So that's going to be 30. So that's 12 overflow that Paul would have to take. So that's a 5, 8, another 4. So it'd be 16 to like 19. So that would totally flip the script. I mean, that's a game-saving 0 on the LSL rot, because then, Matt can just drain for 1. He can kind of reestablish over here. He has Tarkin and Blizzard 2, but by the time, Paul would probably have to just like spend a turn or 2 trying to draw for good cards. And instead he's going to keep, 12, 13 more light force that he probably wouldn't have had. Wow, that is crazy. Whew, alright, that was fun. Alright, so he draws up everything. And we're at 19 to 28. So he's behind, but he's threatening 2 versus, well, 2 versus 2. I guess it'll depend on what's in Matt's hand, but, you know, with Obi out of play, Luke and Han over there, yeah, it looks like Paul might just try to consolidate here and play a little conservative. Yeah, move Vazen out, get him on the Blizzard 2. He's only, both players are activating 9. Draws a sense and another sense. So he doesn't really have a ton to work with here, and, you know, presumably Matt can drain for 2 and then try to go block that drain, and then, you know, they're kind of in a neutral position there. There's, I mean, like double agent would be pretty handy, right? Like, why isn't that, maybe just because it can be sensed, but like double agent to try to kill U3PO now would be pretty huge for Jerome. He'd only have to draw a 1 for Matt, rather, using Jerome, and it would be unlikely that, although after drawing a 0 on a Ellis, maybe you can draw a 1 on a sense to stop the double agent. But, so yeah, this is the second game, just a reminder of 2 games tonight. Looks like we're kind of coming down the home stretch here. Matt only has 5 cards face down. Oh, he didn't move. Oh, wow. Why didn't I would have moved in front. He can't afford to take those drains. His life force is just too low. I was just checking my laptop battery. So he just drained and then moved Luke? I don't like that play, because he's still only doing 2 damage, 1 and 1. Alright, we got a Monarch loss, which is going to grab, wow. 3, how do we get into this mess, and 2 altars. Wow, okay, that's backbreaking. Alright, so then Matt conceded, wow. So, whew, interesting. So in a 9-card hand, he killed 5 of the cards. So, wow, that was a really good game. Alright, so DRTORCH wins. DRTORCH was dark. And the other game, Lightside won, right? John Carr won. So yeah, they'll play each other unless, no, they might not necessarily play each other. Either of them could possibly play one of the other, whoever wins between Lyndon and Joe on Saturday night. All right, so I think that's it. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. It's two pretty good games here. I'll have this up on the YouTube channel so people can watch. Again, thanks for tuning in live. Thanks for anyone who engaged in the chat. If you have any questions, if you're interested in the league, just shoot an email to marketing@starwarsccg.org. And yeah, especially if you're interested in joining the league, it's still open for event 2, 3, 4, 5, and go from there. All right, thanks everyone. Take care. May the force be with you.